All right, and we're live. So good evening, YouTube. It's The Logical Conclusion, and I'm here with my buddy G, and we have a special guest. I'm getting ready to talk to Brenda Jamutai. Did I say your name right?
Jemutai.
Jamutai.
Good.
Jamutai. And
Jemutai, yeah.
like me, she's an up-and-coming vlogger. I found Brenda's videos while I was searching for a Kantaka video or Kantaka cars on Google. And Kantaka is a Ghanaian automaker, or she might call it a auto assembler. And you watch her video, she'll get you straight on that, so you'll understand. Today, I'm having her on so we can learn a little bit more about her mission, and also we're going to refresh that topic that we had last week with the Sudanese in Australia, how blacks are portrayed in Australia, and how Australia is also portraying blacks in the world. I think she definitely has something to say about that because she happens to be in Australia at this moment. So I'll go ahead and we'll let her introduce herself and her channel. Brenda, I'll kick over to you.
Okay. All right, thank you. So, of course, my name is Brenda. What do I have to say? Nothing about myself, but well, I'm studying currently in Melbourne. I'm doing my executive master's here for a business course. I came from Kenya. I come from Kenya. I love Kenya with all my heart. I love Africa. I love with all my heart, you know. And I came here because people would say, "What are you doing in Australia?" Well, I came here because I've never been to anywhere else in the world, and I just wanted to open my mind and to see other things and to experience a different life. And so I decided to come and do my executive master's here. And yeah, I was working back home. I worked in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. I have done projects in 18 countries. So I speak African very, very well. I understand Africa to the core. So yeah, I just thought I'd have a different experience in life. And that's why I'm here.
Damn right. And you could be wherever you want to be. Just so you know,
Yeah.
nobody's knocking you for that. You want to be in Australia. That's how you have to broaden your horizons, right?
Yeah,
Because the only way
absolutely.
better things back to the house is you have to get out and see better things. That's it. You know, or different things. I won't even say better things, but just having an opportunity to see something different will give you that idea that's going to spark something back at home, right?
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
how long have you been in Australia?
I have been in Australia for a bit over 2 years now, about 2.5 years. And yeah, I first came, I was in the western part of Australia. I wanted to see that part of Perth, and I was there for a few months. And then I moved over to the eastern part of Australia, that's Melbourne, and that's where I am now.
Okay. Now, I've never been to Australia.
Oh, okay.
But I live in Canada now. Okay. And being from the US and then going to Canada, I noticed that Canada is a lot more chill. It's probably a little bit more diverse. And not saying they have like more black people than the US, but we're very segregated. We can be very segregated in places in the US. What is it like in Australia?
It's a very interesting it's a very interesting place to be. There's not too many African people. I can call it let me say black people. I still don't get why people get offended when we say black people. I am black. So there's not too many black people. There are not too many black Americans, or rather African Americans, sorry, in Australia. I have seen many Africans come here. There's a difference in how people come here. Most of the Africans that come here, a majority are Sudanese because they came from Sudan during the time that they had the war. So a majority of Africans here are Sudanese. And we have other people that came as refugees from DRC, Congo, and from Ethiopia. Where else? Somali, we have some Somalis here as well. And then from the other sides of Africa, those people have come here legally, and they are here by invitation, mostly of the government, because the government often shares this list of people that they need, and the kind of skills they need. We have engineers, accountants, nurses, doctors. Those are the people that they say they need, and you can apply to go work there. So from other countries, the thing that people don't know is that I don't know any African from those countries that actually depends on the government for, handout, for, what do we call it? They don't wait for the government to give them money. They work and they pay taxes here because they are here by invitation of the government to offer their services. Yeah.
Okay.
And a few students like me, people who've come here, we're not here for free. We pay a lot of money to go to uni. I can tell you it's almost $10,000 to be for one semester in uni. And I have, you take almost, and we pay money. So we're not here to, yeah.
All right. So let me ask you this. So that is a lot of money. So this is off topic a little bit, but back in Kenya, would you call yourself like middle class, upper middle class, or just average? Like what would you say your status is back home?
I would say I'm definitely, maybe I'll just classify myself as middle class. Definitely, okay. I'm not upper middle class. Yeah, but I have been lucky enough to, I don't know, somehow I've always managed to find my way through life. And yeah, definitely just middle class. Yeah.
Are you on a scholarship or are you paying
No,
off?
I am. Well, the thing is, people don't know this, is Australia does not offer many scholarships to anybody other than Australians. So it's very difficult to get a scholarship in Australia. Many people that come here, the Australian universities actually take money as fees. Well, they take fees. So there are not many scholarships here, and I'm not on scholarship. I'm a self-sponsored student, and I do pay my own fees. Yeah.
Are there a lot of Black people in university there?
Well, in my university, I go to a Melbourne Uni, and there are not too many Black people. In fact, in my class, I am the only. Well, there was me and there was one other guy was since finished, and those are the only two Black people I've ever seen in my class. Yeah, that's it. And back in Perth, I did meet a girl who was doing a paramedic course, and she was the only paramedic student in her class. However, she has finished, and I was just speaking to her about job opportunities because she comes from Zimbabwe, and I'm going to do a video on Zimbabwe soon. Zimbabwe is a country that has a lot of economic conflict, and it's hard for her to go back and make a living in Zimbabwe as a paramedic. And I asked her how it is to enter the job market there, and how, if she can manage to be a paramedic. And she said it's very difficult. The barriers that have been put in place for you to be a paramedic when you're not an Australian is so difficult that it's almost impossible for her to enter the job market.
Wow. Okay, so we're saying if people are forced, or if they have barriers to entering the job market, how do they get money?
You now have to do jobs that are not what you're qualified to do. For instance, I'll tell you from where I come from in Kenya, I have been a manager, a marketing and PR manager for a microfinance for about 4 years, and I was managing a region, not a country. I was managing Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, and I have done many projects. And one of the companies that I worked for before I moved to the microfinance is an international company. It's WPP. It's everywhere in the world, including Australia. I cannot enter the job market in Australia on that level. It's impossible. So for someone like me, I have to go, and if I want to work, I go work in I work in a retail shop. You work in places that you're not necessarily, you're overqualified to be at, but you don't have an option.
Yeah. So then at the end of the day, do you see a future for yourself in Australia? I mean, past university, would you stay there an additional 10, 15 years?
No, definitely not. The reason being, I have always said this because I've met people that said, well, I want to stay. And I'm like, cool, you can stay. For me, I have said, I want to live a fulfilling life. I don't want to live a life where it's not about making the fact that $1 is equal to 74 Kenya shillings does not make a difference to me. Money is piece of paper to me.
Yeah.
It's not about money. It's about fulfilling my life, and it's about, I don't want to die and say, well, I made a lot of money, but I didn't enjoy my life. I would like to die and say, you know what, this was a fantastic ride. I would like to, and I'm sorry if I offend any non-Christian people, but I would like to meet God. And when God asked me what I did, I said, just look down, look. I don't want to be somebody that dies and says, well, I was so busy. I had bills. I had to do this. I don't want to live that life.
Yeah, that's real. I don't know. You have any questions, Jay?
Yes, I would like to relationship with Aboriginals and the Black Africans. Is there like any correlation? Do they speak to you guys? Is there like any unity, or do they feel like they're different?
That is a topic very close to my heart, because when I first came here, I feel like I was very ignorant. I didn't know the relationship we have with Aboriginals, but I was surprised when I came here and Aboriginals would greet me and say, hello, sister. Many of them, they would tell me, hello, sister. I kept asking myself, why are they calling me sister? And when I went to read the history, I realized that they identify very closely with Africans. And we do not have a very close relationship with Aboriginals, unfortunately, but I want to build that relationship before I leave. And I have actually spoken to a few people who are in government, and I have asked them if they can connect me, because it's not easy. In Australia, it's only, I think when I looked at the statistics, it was less than 1% of the population is Aboriginal. Same to Perth. Perth has a bit more. I met a few in Perth. So we haven't really connected in that way. And I think we have to, because I feel the pain of the Aboriginals. I see Aboriginals and it hurts me so much to see what I see. I was at the hospital. There's a hospital right across where I live. And when you get to the door of this hospital, it's written Aboriginals and Torres Islanders are welcome. And I said to myself, isn't that supposed to be common sense? Why would you write that these people are welcome? Like, it's a hospital. Why would you say people are welcome? And just it showed me that they feel so excluded that someone has to put a notice to say you're welcome, and it just hurts me so much. I saw some Aboriginal family in the city, and they were walking in the city barefoot. They had no shoes. And I wanted to go and talk to them, but they were crossing the street, and there were this group of people staring, taking pictures, laughing. And I was just like, people don't understand that you are standing on a land that people died so that you live here. And it's so arrogant for people not to respect that.
Have you ever heard of the Tasmanians?
Yes, I have heard of the Tasmanians. In Tasmania, I have not had the opportunity though to be to Tasmania, to go to Tasmania and to meet Tasmanians. Yeah.
Yeah, they killed all of them. There are no Tasmanians left.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, because I do know Tasmania is yeah, I have been. Well, nobody wants to go to Tasmania because it's like the coldest part of Australia, so no one wants to be there. So I have not had an opportunity to go there. I do want to go and see Tasmania. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the. It tells you like the plight of that Black people kind of had all over the world. That I think they had if you look up like Tasmanian people, and you think about words like Tasmanian devil, like where did that come from?
I have no idea.
It's the actual animal.
It's an animal,
yes,
right?
it's an animal.
Is that okay?
It's an animal that it makes like a howling sound that's very fearful. So that's why they call it the Tasmanian devil. It's actual animal, kind of like a wolverine.
That's just my conspiracy theory then.
Yeah, they murdered all the people there, which is interesting. They did the same thing in Australia. So they tried to assimilate the people and the youth, and they killed off the elders. They killed off the older people. That's why the population has not grown, because they have those people on reservations, and they pretty much have them dependent upon the government. And it's pretty sad. I mean, I've never met Aboriginal, but I've watched a lot of documentaries about them. It's just sad that what the British did all across the world, but a lot of people don't tag the British as being as ruthless as the Germans, but the British were as ruthless as the Germans all across the world. And Australia had a long history of also called blackbirding, where they went all throughout the Pacific, Papua New Guinea, Fiji Islands, in which they had a slave trade within that whole area of the Pacific. And it's a part of history that I know in Australia they don't like to talk about, the slave trade that happened there in the South Pacific.
Mm.
Were you aware of that?
To me?
Yes.
No, I wasn't aware of the slave trade in the South Pacific.
Yeah,
I just
blackbirding.
Yeah. I know, you have a pretty large black community, not pretty large, it's like all black community in Papua New Guinea.
Yes, those are.
And I think, how they would say that, Africans had a very low IQ, right? That's something that when they talk, I don't know if you heard that before, Brenda, but, when they're talking about IQ in the world, and they always put Africans very low. And the only group of people who they have lower than the Africans on there are the Papua New Guineans. Wow. Right? They had the Africans pegged at maybe like a 70 or 80. They had African Americans pegged at about an 85. And they said the only reason we had an 85 IQ was because of the interbreeding and them teaching us and whatever else. And then they had the Papua New Guineans down at around a 60. And that's all bullshit. But it just shows you how they thought about the Papua New Guineans.
Yeah,
where they had them pegged in the world, in the Fijians. But if you get a chance, Brenda, because you're in that part of the world, if I had a chance, if I was in Australia, I would shoot up to Papua New Guinea and just check it out.
I think I would love to. I would love to do that for sure.
Yeah. And
well, something you I don't know if you know this, but I was chatting with a friend the other day, and we were discussing about how the Aboriginals until as late as 63, 64, they were not classified as Australian citizens, and they were not allowed to hold Australian citizenship, which is just bizarre. Like, it's crazy. And they were protected in quotes under the Flora and Fauna Act, meaning the flora and fauna that's wildlife and plants. And I'm like, really, you actually put a group of people under that category? It's just it's crazy.
Yeah. So it'd be good, like, if we could build relationships with in between Africans and the native people of Australia. That'd be awesome. I know they have a small community, but the Africans, so you take all the African communities and put them together, how sizable is that?
I really don't know. Well, I think we would be I know we would be a very strong force if we were to do that. But this is a problem I've always had with Africans. And you've seen the same thing with African Americans, and maybe where you are in Canada, is we don't know how to unite on something. We don't know how to unite on economical issues. And it's annoying because I was telling someone, if one person is the Africans, we decided to go service our cars in that mechanic. Does it hurt anyone that somebody is gonna benefit from that? Because we think so selfishly, and we think, oh, we're gonna make somebody else rich. What's wrong with that? And it's hard to get people to unite on one. Everyone has their own agenda. Everyone is And I have experienced that. In fact, sometimes I say people talk about racism, we should talk about cannibalism within our own community, because we are not too good at being united. And I think that that goes for even in the United States. I don't think, I don't know, I don't want to speak for the African American community, but from what I see, it doesn't look like we're helping each other. It doesn't look like we're lifting each other up. We, you know.
No, I don't think in the United States, not too much. I think what ends up happening though with most African immigrants that come to the United States, and G, correct me if I'm wrong, but I see the first generation being a little bit more standoffish, but then that second generation, their children, they kind of grow up just identifying as, Black American. Now, I would think
That's true.
if I went to Africa and I stayed there and I had children there, I would think that my children would probably pick the accent up, speak the language, and just identify, and it would be really easy. I think in a lot of ways that's a good thing. One way, because it's almost like a bridge back for African Americans. It helps a little bit. Like if I'm talking about going back to Ghana, to a lot of African Americans, not that they're against Africa, they're just not ready to hear it. They're not ready to accept, not all, but a lot. Where if I'm talking to a buddy who happens to be Ghanaian, but he was raised in America, he gets it, and then he promotes it, and he can even turn a person who wasn't thinking about that as a possibility. He's able to turn that person and bring them with. So I think in that way, it's good. And also, I feel like we suffered a lot in America, and that to the point where it's disenfranchised a lot. Like there's not much you can really do in one generation to pull a person out of poverty if they're not mentally ready to come out of poverty. So I look like when I see Africans in America, some people might look at that as, yeah, we got to protect ourselves from Africans, whatever else. I look at it like reinforcements.
Yeah, I think that African Americans, they may be the same in Africa. We're separated by wealth, education, and class. Those three categories can make you distance between people of your own skin tone, which is sad. Because just like we was discussing the rap community in Australia, how all of three of us are educated, but when we look at the negative side of poverty and how rap music is portrayed, we look at those people as uneducated, not smart, very derogatory, very negative. And so we tend to shy away from people like that. And so we separate it, by our education or by wealth. And I think that's the force that divides us. But when it comes to white people, you could say within America, they don't care about class, wealth, or anything. They can use race to unite them. And they can use race to put people into power or to gain wealth. But we don't use it. We don't use that to our advantage. I can't talk as freely as I want to because I'm in uniform. But
and likewise, they have the jobs. I mean, they have the
yeah
businesses to give people jobs. Even if they have a white person who isn't skilled in too many ways, they have a job for him.
They do. They have a job. They have a role for him. I mean, if you can look at the last presidential campaign, they was able to use the rednecks, the trailer trash, the white trash to get votes, and that ignorance still was able to be accepted by the wealthy and the upper class because it was all about power.
So wow. Did you have an opportunity to see the second video? Because I sent you that link also, the one where the 60-minute Australia came to Chicago.
You talking about me?
To Brenda.
Oh, Did I? Yes, I did have a look at that video. Yeah, yeah, I did.
All right. In seeing that, what were your thoughts about Chicago?
Well, it makes you think. Well, I understand the international media well enough to know that they have a way of misrepresenting facts. But when you look at that video, of course, it makes you think that it's a very unsafe place. It's, all the black people are fighting each other and they're all on the streets and they're shooting guns at everybody. And it's not safe to even sit in your car. So it kind of, I'm not scared because I can talk my way out of any African. If I'm an African, I believe I can talk to you as an African and we can agree on something. So I'm not scared of being there. But it makes people think that if you're there and maybe you're not African or you're just scared, you might get shot anytime. Yeah. So
Did you think that those guys were believable, the ones that were standing on the corner?
oh no. I didn't think so. No, not at all. It I don't know. It felt more like some movie, not a good quality movie for that matter.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, not believable at all. I don't know. I don't know what they were up to. I can't speak for. I can't. I don't know.
All right. We'll come back to that. But
So I was going.
Go ahead, Jay.
Hey, Louis, is Chicago that bad? I mean, you was born and raised there. Is it as bad as people portray it on television?
No, not to me. It was worse in the 90s, right? However, it is dangerous. So I was born in like one of the most dangerous cities. My parents moved us out to the suburbs by the time I was 5 years old. I started school in the suburbs. But I went to a black suburb, which still is not like the other suburbs. It's very segregated. Chicago and Milwaukee are the two most segregated cities in America. So even on the East Coast, even in the South, you see more blacks and whites sitting next to each other or, going to the same schools. Chicago's not like that. Chicago is once you cross over this block, you're in a different neighborhood. And that's not just black and white. It's also like Mexican or Puerto Rican. They all have their own enclaves. Strange enough, the north side, which was the white side of town, is now the most mixed side. Right, a lot of the white people that live there, they moved out further to very upscale suburbs or just normal suburbs. I don't know. I'm not saying all white people are rich or anything like that. You have poor whites also. But to get back to like, is it safe or not? It is very dangerous in specific parts. So in certain neighborhoods, certain blocks, that's where all the killings happen. But it's strange because me being from there, I remember being a young man and looking for something to do. That's where we would go because it was the popping part of the city. So we were just there, and I never got shot at. I heard gunshots. I saw fights, but I didn't feel like I was in danger at that time. Now then, later on in life, you move around, you go to other places. When I was 18, I moved to Germany. And I just remember being in Germany and I thought that all the neighborhoods looked like doll houses. Like everything was so in line and perfect and peaceful and quiet. It didn't even seem real, right? But then later in life, I moved to other places and I'm like, okay, this is normal. And what I actually saw, maybe that wasn't so normal. And then you say, okay, it's dangerous. But then I put everything into perspective and I just think about in the 1990s, the murder rate was 3 times as high as it is today. So the murder rate is down, but the cameras are up. They're putting more of an emphasis on what's happening and everything that's going wrong, even though it's fewer black people in the city, even though there's fewer killings. I feel like in a lot of ways, the more the more murders go on, well, that's more people who can't murder any. It's like eventually everybody murders everybody. And we have this birth rate that goes like stagnant. So we're not increasing. As a matter of fact, in Chicago, as I mentioned, we're decreasing right now. Our population is going down. You know, we might be like at one time we were like a third of the city, and now maybe we're like 25%. Some of that's because people moved out. They didn't like the violence, and a lot of it's because people are dying.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
my experience was totally different. I grew up in an area that was predominantly white. I grew up where it was so white that I thought every president of every country was a white person. That's how I was raised. I thought even Chinese had a white people. Everybody, every country in Africa. That's how white supremacy had me ingrained.
Wow.
Yes. So my high school was probably like 98% white, everything else other. I mean, blacks didn't even make up 1%. And so I was kind of used to that, but I was used to the racism. I was used to the prejudice, the bias, everything negative that was associated with white people. And it resonated. Like, I played football. And so it resonated when I played football because whoever I played, my goal was to take them out. I mean, it was very violent. And I was that way, which is sad. But that's just the way I was raised, and I got into a lot of altercations for that. And it wasn't until when I joined the military, that when I became around a lot of black people, and I really began to understand black culture, black history, and appreciate it. But it's amazing how demographics can affect how you grow up in life and the way that you perceive the world. So I understand on both your parts how getting out or changing the scenery or changing demographics opens up your mind.
Hugely.
Yeah,
that was the best thing. The military is one of the best things that happened to me. Strangely enough, the first week I was in the military, we had like a mini race riot, and I think that's pretty common in the military in the U.S. because for a lot of people it's their first time like actually working with people of a different race or whatever else, and people feel a certain way and they have to go through something. And the funny thing is, like after about, I say, a year, we get very comfortable around each other. You know, you have
you do.
A white friend that accompanies you to the club, and you know, likes black women, and you know, just he's one of the folks, and vice versa. And everybody, is funny enough, like the American Navy, 80% of the men in the American Navy marry a woman outside of their race.
Wow.
And I think a lot of that just has to do with them, not saying outside of their race, but outside of they're not American. You understand what I'm saying? So they port in the Philippines, they end up marrying a Filipino woman or something like that.
Yeah.
That's black guys and white guys. I found that interesting. Okay, back on topic because we got
It's all good. Hey, it was a very good topic. Sorry, it was good.
It is.
It was good.
Let's talk about the Sudanese in particular, because I think they may have been Australians took some shots at them. How bad are the Sudanese? Are they bad people?
Not at all. My experience with Sudanese is they're very good people. I have met some Sudanese. This is the thing, they don't tell you the good Sudanese. They only show you the kids that are, you know, out there just making trouble. But I've met some engineers. I met an electrical engineer who's a Sudanese. I've seen a police officer who was training as a Sudanese. Sorry, he's a Sudanese training as a police officer. I've met some successful Sudanese people, and these people that they show on TV and they keep referring to them as gangs, they are just a bunch of kids that, you know, they're just kids. They're not gangs at all. I was having a chat with one government official just this past week, who's also my we go to the same uni. My course is an executive MBA, so I get to meet a lot of high profile people. So I did have a chat with one government official, and I said to him, I was asking him what the government's position is on the Sudanese people and what they think. And he said, we know that they are not gangs because I understand what a gang means and what composes of a gang. And that is organized crime. That's a lot of things that are organized. This is not a gang at all. And it looks like the government understands that, but they need to portray something different. And I have met, well, the thing is, I think people get scared when they see a crowd. This is the thing. As nature be with people, Africans do not know how to live by themselves, how to be alone. That is an African thing. I don't know if it is the same for African Americans, but that's how we are. So when you see them in the shopping malls, it's hard to see an African just alone, unless they'll always be in a group, they'll always be talking and laughing. And I think that makes people scared for some reason. I don't know why. And I see people, when they see this group of people sitting at a table and laughing, they kind of get scared and they think, I don't know, it's just, I don't understand it. Obviously, I've had a lot of cultural clash in Australia because I come from a very different culture. And I've had to try and adjust my culture to, because I'm in somebody else's country, so I have to try and live by the rules of somebody else's country. So I don't see any problem with Sudanese, but I think somehow people get scared when they see a group of young kids just being kids. Yeah.
I think I like the point you made about, you know, not Africans really not being alone and kind of having a different type of connection, maybe being a little bit more verbal, a little bit more expressive, charismatic. You know, I think that's a very real trait. I think that's a great thing too, you know. So that's one thing about the continent. Now, I've been to Africa once. That was in Ghana in 2011, and I remember that. I remember a lot of people just being very boisterous. I remember a lot of music, like just music on the street, whatever else. So yeah, and when I saw that, and then I came back home, I was able to understand like maybe where some of the African American traits did come from, as far as, you know, our volume, how we speak, how we hang out with each other. Now, the one thing I think that's happening in America right now is a lot of that is being lost because families are being broken down. A lot of that connection actually comes from family, having people you can, you know, depend on, and now people are kind of just, I'm in Canada by myself. My family's in Chicago, my brother's in Texas. So everybody kind of just spreads out and it's not as united as it could be, or as strong. The link isn't. So, but we're working on that. How do you feel about hip hop music?
Well, coming from an African background and probably being born more than 20 years ago, I think I do not understand much of of rap. I don't get it. It doesn't. I know some people that love it, but to me, I don't understand it. I have no idea what they're talking about. I do understand when they sing the R&B. At least I get what you're saying. But for rap, I don't know what, I don't understand. So as an African, and I know many Africans of my age may have the same sentiment. We understand music. We love music, any kind of music. But rap, I don't understand rap at all.
So you heard of Afrobeat, Afrobeat. You hear that? You like it?
Yeah, I've heard of Afrobeat. I am, and maybe it's just my personality, but I am a proponent of music. You know, I'm a proponent of good music, and I'm I don't know. I don't like when someone tries to copy something else. To me, it doesn't feel authentic, and I tend not to like it. But when you're original, when you're just being you and not copying, trying to be like someone, like trying to be like Jay-Z. I was telling somebody else, I don't know what Jay-Z is talking about. I know there's a person called Jay-Z. I know that he sings music, he raps, that's all I know, you know. So if I don't understand anything else. So if you try to be rap like Jay-Z, then I don't know. Just be you. Just be you. Yeah.
Well, if you don't like it, you're in good standings. So you're not missing anything. So don't feel bad for not being a part of the machine.
Okay.
Because I was driving home today and I was just listening to the radio station, and everybody makes a big deal out of how much of intellectual this rapper name is Killer Mike. But today was my first time ever listening to one of his songs. I said, I'm going to listen to the entire song, and it was garbage. I mean, just straight garbage. And so it's just killing brain cells. I mean, that music literally kills brain cells. I mean, because if I have to sit there and try to figure out what you're saying, and you putting it in a riddle, and it's derogatory, and it's about killing, and it's misogynistic, why am I wasting my time listening to it? There's nothing about it that uplifts me, that uplifts my family, that propels us forward. Why am I sitting up here wasting my time listening to it? Because for that music to transcend across the world in a negative way, it's going to have profound effects in a negative way all across the world as well. Because looking at the videos that the Sudanese had done, even though you say they're not a gang, but people still recognize that music as gangster rap. The kids get hyped off of it. They're talking about taking knives to people, selling drugs, getting high. When I watch these kids dancing on stage, they have a dance that goes back thousands of years. They have a music that goes back thousands of years. Why are they imitating this garbage? I mean, why? I couldn't understand that. I mean,
I'm gonna push back just a little bit.
Yeah,
I'm gonna disagree with you just a little bit. All right, and that's being that we know that there are different brands of hip hop. I would say that the brand of hip hop that has been wholesale and pushed out all across the world is the very worst. And I'm not saying that's because of the people who invented hip hop. That's because of the people who invented the machine that's pushing it out in the world. I can mention Common Sense, Most Def, Talib Kweli, Jay-Z on his last album, 444, just about everything Kanye West does, and about 10 other rappers that are very intellectual and they push out good music, and they've been doing it for a long time. Not to mention all the rappers that are not getting the promotion that they need, but they make good music. If you're out there if you love hip hop and you want good music, holler at me. If not, if you love something else, I'm not trying to pull anybody over to the hip hop train. I just have to go up on and then when it comes to originality, that's key. You mentioned that you got to be original, but hip hop in and of itself is a copycat art form because most of the time you're talking about the music, you're taking something old and you're refreshing it. So it's taking my parents' music, which maybe I heard coming up, but I didn't like it, or maybe I heard it and it's just, it's old, it's dated to me, it's antiquated, and it's refreshing it. So it's taking it and popping it up, remixing it, and giving it to me in a way that I do like it. And then if I've never heard that beat before, I might say, what is that? Where did he get that beat from? And then I listen to the original, and then you end up with some Smokey Robinson or something in the deck. What the Sudanese, I think what kind of surprised me the first time I saw that video was they were imitating the very worst of Black American hip hop. And and then people in the comment section, rightfully so, but it kind of still just stung me a little bit because they said, oh, they're imitating the Black Americans, and that's the reason that they're lost. And it's like, no, that's not Black Americans. Black America. G is Black America. That is just one aspect of it, because some of my first cousins, they rap. You're not going to get them to stop rapping. That's like a big thing for a lot of people. They want to rap. So I have, family is all over the place. So I can connect with them. I understand what they're talking about, but I also know that we're just going in two different directions in life. Like I'm going left and they're going right, and I really can't talk to them to get them to go my way per se. You see what I'm saying? So I don't hate them. I don't hate the music, but it doesn't benefit me. Like G was saying, G, I agree with you there. Gangsta rap, for everything. When we were growing up, they had Easy E and DJ Quick. They had the Ghetto Boys. Ghetto Boys I kind of like. They had NWA. They had Two Live Crew. All of those were like gangster rap groups, Brenda. Or they talked a lot about women and other things that weren't very progressive. Yeah, misogyny. Yeah, that's bad. But on the flip side, you had good hip hop too. What do you listen to? What kind of music do you listen to?
I think I pretty much listen to anything other than rap, but
your head turned.
Yeah, because the reason is like I said, rap they speak too fast. I don't understand what they're saying. And some of it is just obviously because of what you said, because of some of the things they do, some of the words they use. I don't agree with that. I don't like it. I don't like when people are pretending to be something they're not. So for me, maybe it kind of made me feel that rap is just not for me. But perhaps there could be some good rap music out there. Obviously, that's why I haven't listened to much of rap. But I do listen to a lot of African music. I do listen to a lot of reggae. But reggae and raga. I do listen to R&B. I listen to gospel music. I listen to almost anything as long as it makes sense to me. And as soon as I hear something that I don't agree with, I just turn it off. I don't have to listen.
Smart.
What is a racial slur in Australia?
Wow. I haven't heard any racial. I have heard people throwing around the N-word, but they clearly, I think they don't know what they're talking about when they use the word. But I haven't. The thing with Australians, let me tell you, Australians do not tell you something on your face. So on face value, when they meet you, they're very respectful to you. They try to, or rather to me, no one has ever said anything to me. But when you go online and one day just log into Facebook, check on Channel 9 News or Channel 7 News, when there has been something, a black person has done something, and just watch the comments, you will just be shocked by what people say. People will be like, send them back. We don't want them here. What are they doing here? I've seen people saying monkeys. I've seen people saying, people say a lot of things that nowadays I don't read the comments on Channel 7, Channel 9 News because it makes me, I don't want to have the hate towards people that I feel when I read some of the comments.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
That's what happens. Yeah.
That's as deep. I told you, America has a nice size, not just Black community, but also Latino, Asian. So it's a lot of people. And when they were talking about Canada and Australia, all of these are like British colonies in which Britain was able to wipe out the native population and become the majority. So if I was in London last year, when I went to London, I saw more British people with like American accents. I was surprised. So you have Americans go back to the UK and just intermingle, go to school there, whatever else. And I think there's a connection there between a big connection, strong bond between London, America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa. Right? Those are all areas where the British, they went, and I believe before anything else, before they even unite with, France or whatever. I believe that pact between those 6 nations is very tight. Maybe less now South Africa, because South Africa has a different majority rule right now. But still, the people that are there know that the white people or the boys, whatever, in South Africa that have British ancestry, know they have somewhere to go if it really hits the fan. They called Australia, I said all that to say this, they called Australia the better America, right? And when they called it the better America, immediately, a light bulb went off in the back of my head. Like, what do they mean by that? And you know what they mean by that? It's the better America because, they don't have as many Africans, Black people. Now, to what extent, how is Australia as far as crime? How perfect is it? If you were to say, you take all the Africans out, how perfect is Australia?
Oh, this is the thing. I've always said, even if you say send them back, if we all went back to Africa, it wouldn't change the fact that there are people who commit crime in Australia. There are all kinds of people that commit crime in Australia. There are white people who commit crime. There are different kinds of people who commit crime. Crime is not as bad as I have seen. Maybe I don't know how bad it is in America, although I have seen the news that there's too much. The good thing, there's gun regulation here, so basically you can't own a gun, which is a good thing. So people would fight with knives, and which is fine because so I think the crime rate is low because of the
Hello. Oh, she froze up.
Oh.
You froze up for a second, Brenda. Go ahead. You said the crime rate is low because
I think it's because of the regulations that have been put in Australia, mostly to do with gun regulation. There's no, because of that, I think, and it's just lower in Australia, but I don't think it has anything to do with the low population of Africans either.
Australia started off as a penal colony. That's where they sent all their prisoners to.
Yes, true. And that's the thing, because every time I see people saying send them back, I said, well, let's all go back. Because if you say send all the Africans back, then let's send everyone who's not here by invitation of the Aboriginals back. That's always my argument. But then, yeah, you hear a lot of send them back, but people are not smart enough to understand the history of why the refugees are here. The refugees do not come from Sudan, at least, and from DR Congo and from Somalia and from Ethiopia. They didn't come here because they came and cried at the border and said, please let me in. They came here because Australia extended a welcome to them, because a country needs a population to grow. And if I give you a 1-minute crash history of Sudan, and I'm sure you know this, is Sudan, there's North and South Sudan, and Sudan borders Egypt to the north. And a big population of Northern Sudan is actually Arabic, they're Arabs. So they ended up fighting because of the resources, and that is the oil that is found in Sudan. And when they fought about the oil, there's the Northern Sudanese who are the Arabs, and the Southern Sudanese who are the Africans. They were fighting for that resources, and the Arabs were also controlling the country, so they were fighting for that. And that became a lot of fighting and squabbles, and that pushed people that were running away from that civil war towards outside the country, because some people don't want to get involved, and there's some people that are actually wanting to fight. And what happens is they move into Kenya. Kenya has the largest refugee camp. I laugh when people say, oh, why aren't Africans doing everything? We have the largest refugee camp in the world. We have 2 largest refugee camps, that Kakuma camp and Dadaab camp in Kenya. And they all come in there. And we are not able to absorb all the Sudanese into our community because we don't have the economic power that other countries do. And so what happens is countries like Canada, countries like USA, countries like Australia, invite some of the poor. They extend an arm and say, we'll take 200, we'll take 300, we'll take 500. And the UNHCR facilitates that. And they take these people to go and be in their countries. So when people say send them back, they didn't leave their country because they wanted, they just hated their country. They left their country because they are forced and pushed out of the country because there's a war between the Arabs and the Africans there. So it's just funny how people are not. I don't know.
I just got an idea for another video, but I won't even open that up right now. I'm just gonna
okay.
The topic.
Yes, and also let me just point out that the reason you end up seeing a lot of what I would call misbehaving it's because of a clash in culture. When you have someone, let me take you on a journey. Imagine you're 12 years old and there's a war in your country. Yeah. And when you're 12 years old, you moved from your country. Maybe as you're running, you can't find your mother, you can't find your uncle, you can't find your relatives. Maybe you just live maybe with your dad or your mom or somebody. Or you just go by, you just follow the crowd. You don't know where anyone is. And you end up in a camp. When you go to the camp, you are still lost because you left home, there was a fight, people were killed, and the UN says to you, we're going to try and facilitate and help you to go to another country. So that takes years. It could take, as we speak today, there are people in the camp and they've been waiting in the camp to be relocated for 10 years, for 5 years, for 10, they're still waiting as we speak. So imagine you're 12 years old, you go and wait for 10 years in the camp. You're not settled. And then you're 22 years old and suddenly the letter comes and they says, okay, you're going to go to the USA. So you go to the USA, or they tell you're going to go, you're 22 years old. You go to Australia and Australia says, welcome, this is your house, and now you are welcome to Australia, Australian citizen. You can imagine what goes on in the mind psychologically of this person who was 12 years and now is settling at 22, does not know where his parents are, does not know where his sister is, does not know where his brother is.
Now, if they commit a crime, do they get deported?
You cannot deport a refugee. I think that is one of the international laws that you can't deport some because they are fleeing from a dangerous situation, and taking them back will put them back in danger. And I think you'll be breaking one of the international rules that I don't know which one. But these ones you see committing the crime are not even the ones that fled. These are the children. These are the second generation. These are the children of the ones that fled the war. These ones these children you see fighting on the streets.
Yeah.
And that is because also of a disconnect, because in Africa, if a child is misbehaving, it's very easy to discipline a child. Very simple. You just take a cane, you give them a little bit of a whipping, they will be back in line. It's very easy if your child is misbehaving and they go to they're found stealing, I don't know, candy in the shops. It's very easy to discipline such a child. Even if I find a child, my neighbor's child stealing in the shop, grab them by the ear, you take them to the father will discipline them there, they will never do it again. But here, you can't do that. So it's a disconnect. You see somebody stealing, a child stealing, there's nothing you can do. A mother and a father cannot discipline the child the way. And we were saying this as an African, with some African people, we were saying African children don't understand timeout. Timeout is a concept that we do not understand. We speak one language, and that is proper discipline. So now I see children that would do things that you can never do in Africa, out in the malls, and they're hiding and they're smoking, and you can't do that. 12-year-old child in a uniform smoking a cigarette, oh my God, you will get the beating of your life. You will forget about cigarette for the rest of your life.
So then let me ask you this. If you were to take them and put them back in a functioning community in Sudan, I'm talking about a dysfunctional child, you send them back to Africa. Is that like the method that they use to fix a child that's misbehaved? We'll send them back, let them get some culture, and then bring them back to Australia?
there's not in my own child. If I had a child in Australia today who was misbehaving and is telling me you can't beat me because I'm going to call the police, we are going back to Africa for sure. And you were going to behave yourself. That's how
you're gonna beat them from the airport, right?
Yeah, and it's not beating. You don't beat them to hurt them. It's a discipline. It's a way to tell you you don't do this again. You do not disrespect your parent. You do not talk back to me. You do not do this. That's how we discipline our children. That's how I was disciplined, and I turned out fine. So.
Okay. And then the other question, and I'll ask you this one, then we'll start to wrap it up a little bit. But the other question that I have is it possible to make Australia in Africa? Is it possible to make Australia in Africa?
Yes, it is possible. I think I'm happy that you're going to Nairobi because I want you to go and experience Nairobi and see how Nairobi is changing. I told somebody yesterday, they were asking me about Nairobi, and I said, I have not seen anything in Melbourne that I've never seen in Nairobi. That's the truth. We have everything, plus wildlife, plus everything. So already we are doing very well. We are doing very well as an economy. Africa is the largest growing economy in the world, is the fastest growing economy in the world, excuse me. And I'm encouraging African Americans who have a great interest in Africa to invest in Africa. The opportunity is there for you. I encourage African Americans who have the qualification to look for jobs in Africa. There are so many expatriates working in Africa. I wish I was there when you were going to Nairobi because I would take you to see the places that you might not get to see. There are places where literally you go, and I think we are one of the most colorblind nations in the world because we do not even recognize that there's a white person sitting on the next table. We are so colorblind, and it's amazing. I wish I was there when you're going. It's the best place to be in the world. And I'm asking people, don't be scared. Africa is, if you invest in the stock market in Africa today, I want you to go do your research. I think I will send you to my financial advisor when you're in Kenya to have a chat with him. Invest in the stock market in Africa. You get a good return. And not only do you get a good return, you get to build a nation and you get to do something. And I have seen people come from the UK, white people come from the UK and settle. They decided they're not going back home. And they're settled in Kenya today and they don't want to go back home. So people should come and see African Americans that feel, they want to see, come and see Africa, come and invest in Africa. No one will do anything to you. When they see you, in fact, the first question they ask you is, where are you from? Because they always believe you're from somewhere in Africa when they see a black person. And I think let people invest in Africa, go to Africa, visit Africa, enjoy Africa. Is your country, is your continent. No issue. And invest in the stock market. The stock market is very good. Invest there.
Yeah, so I got a visa and they told me, well, I don't know what the visa is going to allow me to do. I saw like 3 different types of visa. One was a business visa, one was a travel visa, and the other one was, I think it was an East African visa, so you can go to multiple countries. So let me ask you this. You said, with being in an all-black country, as a matter of fact, I'm going to save that for another video.
Okay.
I'll say that. I like the conversation. Did you have anything else you want to say about Australia and the Sudanese in Australia?
No, I would say I would like to reach out to the Sudanese, because the Sudanese community, they seem to keep a lot to themselves. And I would like to reach out to them and say, let us talk as Africans, because we need to help each other. We cannot allow these children because the way they have started, they're going to keep doing that for 10 years, and then we're going to end up with a whole different suckers, and we don't want that. So I would like to extend an arm to the Sudanese community let's talk, let's solve the issues. There's some of these children that maybe they don't have parents. We are here. I'm not a parent, but I would be happy to help somebody, to help a child with good advice, to help our child to go far. But we don't have to feel the way we are feeling because we are in a different land. I want us to work together because we can do it. We can work together. And don't forget, African Americans in America, in Canada, in wherever you are, come home, make a point of coming home and come and see what's out there for you. And go to the internet, check out if there are jobs, apply. Go and stay there for 1 year. What do you have to lose? Go and stay for 1 year, go and live there, and you can go back to America if you want to.
Okay. That's Brenda Jumutai.
Yes.
Hey,
Yes.
did you have any final words? Anything you want to say to Brenda?
Hey, Brenda, I appreciate your time and everything that you post on YouTube, and also to you, Lewis, man, I appreciate everything that you do as well, man. You guys are doing great things for the world and for me also, and I appreciate every effort that you guys are putting forth trying to make this world a better place.
Hey, likewise, G, and God bless, and thank you for everybody who tuned in, and like and subscribe Brenda's page. We'll link it below. All right. Thanks, Brenda. I'm gonna sign off. Hang on just
All
one moment.
right. Thank you.